to take it away.
Okay, great. So yeah. By the way, Yashovardhan, meet Paloma. She manages all the chat and learn programs at Powerfly.
Great. That's awesome. Hello, Paloma.
Nice. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
All right. So now we hit the mark. And hello, everyone, and welcome to our first ever community chat and learn in India. So today we'll be focusing into mission versus salary for your first job out of college. And we have with us here Yashovardhan Agrawal, who is the DevRel manager at Rocket.chat. So let us take it away, and we'll have some people joining us in about some moments. So yeah, please join us and we'll be taking your questions in some time. So by the way, let me just ask you, are you in the last year of school or, an early career professional? And, have you ever been in that dilemma where you could not decipher between whether the mission is crucial or, the amount of compensation that you're getting is crucial in your career journey? So by the way, today we have Yashovardhan who will be taking you out of that dilemma, out of that very dilemma. And he's the person who has braved that question before, and he'll be taking us out. He'll be paving the path for you today as well. So let me just introduce Yashovardhan really quickly. So Yashovardhan is a JavaScript enthusiast, and he's currently DevRel manager at Rocket.chat. He also manages DevRel page, and you'll always see him on Twitter talking about DevRel, all the new advancements in here. So welcome, Yashovardhan, to the chat. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. What about you, Sanma?
Yeah, I'm great. So yeah,
Awesome.
today is it's a really dear topic to my heart because as we are someone who are in our early careers or who are in our early stages of the career, and we were in that very situation where we did come through this problem, let's say some 2 or 3 years back, and I feel you're someone who has actually braved through this situation. So tell me more about your perspective on it.
Right, definitely. So if I talk about the perspective, there are a lot of different things I can talk about from like our career journeys. If I talk about me particularly, it has been very unconventional, to be very honest, coming into developer relations, the thing you were calling DevRel. And also thanks for for the introduction initially, because I could not say that particularly. From coming from like a non-CS background and then coming to a CS type job, and then moving into a different kind of a sector that is not even related to my core, that was mechanical engineering. It has been a very different kind of a journey, to be very honest. So if I talk about my perspective is on multiple aspects. It's not just about your first salary. It's not just about the only mission, but it's about what you want to achieve, what resonates with you particularly at any point of time when you are deciding what is the best thing for your career, right? So for every student, every individual, actually it changes from time to time. And as we move forward in this conversation, we'll actually discuss different cases of when you are over here, when you are in a different situation, what should you be doing to actually achieve what you want to in the long run.
So basically, yeah, that's, those are really wise words there, Yashovardhan. So by the way, let me just ask you, what was your background like, and, how did you get your initial job in computer science? What was your initial journey like? And I heard that, you were a Google Summer of Code mentor as well. So going through your background, which is mechanical engineering. So how did you get into that path? How were the initial times like?
So it's a very, very interesting journey, to be very honest. Like, I've talked to a lot of people about this when I even published a blog about this, talking about how hackathons changed my journey path. And actually, such events, connecting with people is one of the major things and one of the major reasons I got into the position I am today. I definitely owe a lot to the people I know personally. So if I talk about me, I started particularly development or some kind of stuff around playing with computer science stuff very early. Like I was in like class 11th or something when I developed my first Android app. And that was a big deal for me because I was just downloading things from here and there. I had a very bad mobile phone, which my father gave me. And I wanted it to look like one of the best phones at that time, which was Samsung S3. So
Okay.
I just went over, and what I did was I tried making themes, copying some
Mhm.
elements from different phones, just trying to get that app work, seeing online communities, online forums, everything out there, just to get that thing particularly work. I did not know anything about coding, right? I did not know anything about the things that are going in the background, how Java actually works for Android, how, like, at that point, Android Studio did not exist. We used
Mhm.
Eclipse and things like that. So at that point, I did not know anything, but that whole process of hacking into it, that was very interesting for me. So I tried that. Also, I published a few things over there. It got all rejected by Google ultimately because of the lack of quality, I should say. But the thing was, I got kind of head start, which actually
Mhm.
people get when they are in the college, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the first thing I would like to say is, like, getting that head start was a big thing for me. But for anybody in college, I've seen my peers in college who were much better than me in just 2 years. It's because they tried and they learned along the way in the initial stages as well, right? So definitely getting that knowledge is the first thing, right? If you want to breaking into in any career, if you want to break into computer science, you need to know how it works, right? Developer
Mhm.
relations, you need to know how developers actually think, and then you can go into the community side, know how the community works and everything like that. We'll talk about that. But talking about my journey afterwards,
Mhm.
I did not score a lot in my JE exam. I was not too good in, I should say, preparing for all those things, because I
Mhm.
was definitely invested into this computer science side of things, of which I was exploring. When I got into it, I remember that was my first semester and I wanted to change my branch, but definitely, to be realistic, I could never have done that. My first hackathon happened at that point, and that's a very interesting story again, because that hackathon itself, I was not selected. My
Mhm.
one of my seniors was organizing it, and it was funded by good companies and everything. But as a very junior person, I was never selected. And when I asked the senior, please, I can join this thing, I really want to try. I don't know anything about a hackathon. I thought really there was some kind of a hacking involved, not
Mhm.
actually writing the code. So,
Yeah.
and building a product, what hackathon is for. I got into it and I had no idea. I tried to find a team. Nobody was willing to take me into a team because I was a fresher and everything. But when I understood what I need to do in this particular, like, 24 hours is to build something. And I remember I have built something in the past. So I said, okay, I'll try my own thing. Let's do it my way. So I had an idea that was called Adi. At that point, there
Okay.
was some other name or something. So I just utilized that idea, which was actually some kind of a coordinate system, I should say. It was actually taking the latitudes and longitudes, giving you a position on the map,
Mhm.
and using like a universal pin code system of some kind. So I tried that. I was making it. I realized I cannot do it alone. I asked
Mhm.
two of my friends to join in. Again, got this permission of the senior who was organizing it. Luckily, got them into it. And we kind of developed this whole web app in those 24 hours. Literally, I did not sleep. I had total red eyes at the end of it.
Yeah.
So I did that. I developed it. And the best part was, in those 24 hours, not just I got to learn about uh, these technologies more deeply, because now I was building from scratch. I could not copy paste things. Although you can in hackathons multiple times, but I was not like looking to do that because I could not build anything properly
Mhm.
at that. So I built everything from scratch, and that was the initial thing, the bigger thing. And then I got to know about GitHub. I got to know about how open source works, how you can contribute into it. So that was the time I got to know stuff, because the people around me were seniors and they knew a lot of things which I
Mhm.
was never even aware of, right? So that was, I guess, the starting point in the college where I got to know about, okay, these things actually exist, right?
Exist. Yeah.
So because of that, I developed something. That was a totally different story, that I won the hackathon, and I cannot believe how I did that. That was a totally different
Wow.
thing. But to be very honest, like, that was the start I should say, because after that I like went more into, like you mentioned, Google Summer of Code and everything. That's a totally different story. But that's when I got a start into open source. I got to know about it. I started contributing into it. I contributed into multiple organizations. Coala is the one I mentored for as well. But that is the time I understood what are the things going on. And it's not just all like smooth path afterwards, right? You get rejected multiple times. I got, the first time I applied for Google Summer of Code, I got rejected. The second time I applied, because I was contributing, I became the mentor instead of the student. And that was a nice thing. At the same time, I was giving talks in multiple places all across India because of a program called GitHub Campus Experts. So I got into a totally different side of tech, not into a typical data structures route, because I was not doing it at that point. Not, I was aware about it, but I was like, this is where I'm progressing. I explored a different side of tech, and that pulled me into a different direction altogether. And my core mechanical had nothing to do with that particularly, right? So I graduated and everything, but my expertise is not into the mechanical side. It's actually on the side of what I have been
Computer
doing in
science.
all years,
Yeah.
right? So that is how I think my journey started. If I want to talk about things, how I did everything particularly, that's my journey and that's an experience. But this is the start of that experience, I should say.
Yeah, and can you imagine, everything started from just tinkering with custom modded ROMs in a phone. I mean, that's quite a start, right? So basically everything starts from peer pressure just to get a good looking phone. Great. And the one thing that you mentioned, and that's something that I see rampant in Indian college students as well, is basically when you graduate, I mean, when you finish your high school and, move into a college, be it engineering college or whatever, we have this fear of looking at code. But, when you actually tinker with it, there's nothing. I mean, those are just instructions and those are just logic. And many people are really good with logic, but they get really scared by that blue green looking code editor, that dark background lines of code. So that's something that still scares a lot of people, and that's still kind of an obstacle for a lot of people to venture into programming. And once you get started with it, and as you mentioned, your addy idea, and when you hacked for a total of 24 hours, and you got that first sweet taste of winning, and letting the world know that your product can actually do something. And that's when your career journey kind of skyrocketed, or your interest skyrocketed in this space. So what would be your advice for for those for people who are, let's say, first year students in engineering, or who are really starting their journey in programming or coding? How should they brave that fear of code, if I may say so, or fear of coding, programming, or how it has been taught us so far in popular culture that it's a difficult thing to do, while it is not. And today it's a generation of no code and blockchain. So what would be your opinion to somebody who's really starting out, who doesn't have any idea to mark their way in the brevity of code?
Right. So you mentioned a very nice thing that whenever you go out in the public or like code in some kind of a cafe or something, people see that green and black screen and people are like, oh man, this is like a hacker. He's doing something like very interesting or out of the world, something like that. Even my friends who are non-tech people actually think like when they see my system, it's like a big thing. But at the same time, when my tech friends come in, they see you're not even writing a really good quality of code out there. They might be just telling me something else out there, right? So it's like when you are looking at something and you don't know about it, like you might be investing in stocks and don't know about it, you might be like, oh no, what this is actually. So if you know how it works, you might understand, okay, this is how it works a bit, right? So don't look at the mountain. You mentioned about no code. No code is a very good thing. We can talk about that in a way of building products. But if you want to learn about it, no code might not be a good way to learn about new thing. Again, if you're thinking about AI, if you're thinking about blockchain, why are you thinking about the highest level things to start off, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you can start blockchain in 2 months. First, get the very basics done, right?
Hmm.
And with very basics, I'm not talking about DSA and all the theoretical knowledge. Just try practically, right? Just try practically. There are multiple things available, and there are multiple courses available. Like courses in Udemy is like the most common thing you can see. And if you talk about multiple websites, Free Code Camp I've heard is a very good site. I've not used that particularly. Build a very small thing. Build like a small C++ program which can actually
Hmm.
do something for you, right? You might have done that in your school days even.
Hmm.
Build something like a small website, a small app, anything which is very simple. But what it will do is it will actually drive away the fear that, okay, what's going on in this black green screen, right? It will actually help you understand, okay, I don't understand it, but when I see this on the screen, I can just read the text and kind of get an idea of what's going on, right?
Hmm.
At this
Hmm.
point, if I see some kind of a like high class production code, if I've not even read about that language, I might be looking at it first and I will be like totally out of my world, like what's actually going on, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
when I actually look at it, when I see, okay, this particular thing is doing that, as you said, it's all a set of instructions. It's actually talking to the computer. That's all it is. It's a
Absolutely.
language
Yeah.
like English. Hindi. It's a simple language we are doing, we are writing it, and you just read it. If you just read it,
Yeah.
if you understand 0.1%, you are a bit further than 90% of the people who are just backing out after just seeing it,
Yeah.
right? So you have to be in that situation, understanding the very, very basic. And if you
Hmm.
want to move forward, if you want to see, there are multiple open source projects, right? They have their code open. They have their software open. Just go and see, okay, this software is working like this. Here is the code behind it. Okay, this is how it works. This is what it triggers. So it's a gradual process, but starting at the very bottom is where you can actually move forward with it.
Take baby steps. If I may summarize, take baby steps. Don't look at the mountain and don't get disheartened by looking at, the volume of work that, just don't compare somebody's 100th chapter with, your day one. So that's about it. So moving forward, let's discuss a bit further on the mission aspect of, of your work. So now that you're
Mhm.
working at Rocket.chat, so what is the mission and how do you say your work aligns with the mission that you have set forth for yourself, and there's a company wide mission as well. So what is the
Mhm.
value of culture, and how do you see your work life culture fit?
Right. If I talk about my mission at that point, when I was taking up this role, my mission was I wanted to go in like a product focused company
Mhm.
which company is not actually like, what should I say? Like, it should actually do something that is benefiting the world and is not actually going out there and like utilizing the data to some extent. And those kind of things were at the back of my mind. But the basic thing was I wanted to be in the product side first. I wanted to do developer relations because that is where I saw myself going, not actually in the background, actually in the front, talking to people, like hosting something like this, talking generally to understand
Hmm.
what's going on and take their pain points and move forward with the product. So that was my mission when I was looking forward and searching for a job. When I saw Rocket Chat, the few things that popped up to me was this is open source. That's
Hmm.
fantastic. I love open source softwares. It's not just about like the code being open. It's about caring for the community, caring for the people that are utilizing the software, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah.
with open source, the basic mindset that comes into any company is these are the people who started it, right? If you think about any company, the founders or the founding team has a bigger impact or any kind of a having a say in something that's
Hmm.
going on rather than what's the product market fit later on. That comes later. If I should say, the first idea comes from the people who have like started it. And when the people is the whole community, it means that the focus of the company is the community itself, right? So
Yeah.
that is definitely in the backside. So that is the first thing that came into my mind when I saw this company. Definitely the alignment with me, what I wanted to do, developer relations. I got a chance to actually manage a whole develop program, and that was a big thing. Then the next thing was their product. Their product was totally in the JavaScript stack, which actually again resonated with me. So there are a lot of
Hmm.
different things. But if I talk about the high level mission aspect of it, I thought it's when I got into the company a bit, I got to know about it majorly, right? This is not the first thing you see from the behind. This is something you can
Yeah.
see when you have conversations, when you actually interview. I'm not saying like in the sense that I accepted the rule and then I got to know. Definitely more deeply, I got to know about that. But when I was interviewing for them, I was interviewing them as well. And that is the
Hmm.
biggest aspect because I was understanding what they are doing and why they are doing. And those conversations told me that this company is actually worth to actually give my time to grow with it. And that's how I can progress my career. And this is where a major problem lies, that we are so like focused on cracking the interview that we are not
Hmm.
actually thinking what is like the road ahead, what
Yeah.
will be our lives after I get into the company. So that is where the mission is the most critical point. It's not like you need to read the mission statements of the company or what their cultural aspects are. They are definitely on the book, they are definitely over there, and people, it's great that multiple companies and
Hmm.
definitely a lot of companies abide by it, but it's actually reflected in the conversations of actually do they do this or not, is this just written or they actually
Hmm.
follow it. This is where the critical mission aspect lies.
Totally, totally agree. And more often than not, we really forget that it's a two-way street. It's not us interviewing for them. It's actually we are also interviewing them as well. Whether or not the company is a good fit for this person's caliber. So it's a two-way street, and when people understand that, when candidates understand that, that they should also be interviewing because they are going to give a huge chunk of their career, of their time to this company, a huge chunk of their resources, the innate resources to this company, and helping the company's mission move forward. So it should also be a responsibility on our side to take it as such, and kind of evaluate the company beforehand, and whether or not what they say is what they preach. So yeah, that's a really good thing. So by the way, Yashovardhan, you mentioned about open source quite a lot, and we have a question from Suik, that how to get started with open source.
Right. So as I mentioned in my first hackathon, definitely I got to know about open source. I guess you might also know about it now a bit, how it works. As I mentioned, the code is open. Anybody can see it. Anybody can contribute into it. By contribution, I mean just editing the documentation, just editing a comma. Like if you
Hmm.
have known about some stuff like Hacktoberfest, Google Summer of Code, these are some programs that are out there. There are multiple programs that are out there in which you can just start off with a very simple thing. So
Hmm.
if I talk about me, how I got started. So I utilize the open source softwares. You see, there are multiple open source software you might be using right now. BLC Media Player, for example, right? You might be using something else like some tool that you might be using if you are developing using Node.js. Node.js code is out there in the open. Electron apps, React Native, any language, most of the languages you see out there, their code is wide open, right? But they are again
Hmm.
high level projects. You
Hmm.
have to start with a very low level project. Okay. So the best thing and best way to get started is like there are multiple blogs out there. You can find everybody is promoting what is the first project you can start off with. I'll say just start off by creating the GitHub account. When you create
Hmm.
that GitHub account, there's something called GitHub Learning Lab, right?
Hmm.
And that is where you like it will teach you how to use GitHub properly, right? It will be
Okay.
a board which will actually show you how to use this, how to use that. It's like a very small 15-20 minute course or something. And you can actually start off using GitHub, understanding the platform. That's the first thing. When you go into Twitter, it will be like overwhelming. Everybody is posting, but when you see how it works, it will be easier for you to tweet. Similarly, first of all, understand how to use GitHub. You have known how to use GitHub. Now go out there, see in the trending aspect what are the projects that are trending, or maybe if you are interested in Google Summer of Code, check out the Google Summer of Code archive. There are multiple projects. Now, at this point, I'm assuming that you might have understood a language, maybe a JavaScript is a language, Python, any language, and somewhat understood how to develop on top of that. Any kind of a framework, Python is there, Flask you have understood, or Django you have understood, any kind of a framework that works on top of that. Search for that framework, that language projects. Now the projects are out there, people have open sourced it. See if there are any issues in the GitHub tab, the issues tab. You have understood how GitHub works now, right? See issues that are pending, check what they want you to do, see if you can do it or not. But before that, try that project out so that you understand how it works. If that issue is something you want to contribute to, just write like a normal conversation. I want to contribute, I want to try this issue. People out there, they are managing it, they will definitely say yes. It's not necessary you'll get the answer the first time. You should actually try in multiple projects first. Try, if you get the answer, then move forward. Just try to code it, submit a pull request. If you submit a pull request, what will happen is people will review it. According to the review, make the changes, be polite, be very understanding of what they need, what you have done. And when you merge your first pull request, it's like a domino effect. You go on and create multiple pull requests. If you have created 2, 3, 4, 5, you kind of are at like the very top of the food chain of contributors in the open source. So if you have contributed up to 5 even, and then you can move forward, you can do something interesting, open source your own projects, contribute into others, grow, get into some program out there. And that's how you just start with open source.
That's great. That's totally, that's absolutely commendable knowledge, Yashovardhan. By the way, just wanted to ask, do these set of instructions still apply if somebody wants to, let's say, go for something specific, like apply for Google Summer of Code? These are the set of instructions that they apply, or should they modify their strategy a little bit to to cater for Google Summer of Code? Or we have Zilliqa Summer of Code, ZSOC, and many such other open source competitions as well. So how should somebody strategize for all these competitions?
Right. So for different competitions, first of all, understand what's their deadline and what do they need you. Like for even a hackathon, you might see, okay, this is here, this is the focus of the hackathon. Similarly, think about this is the particular open source thing. Like I used to work at MLH. MLH has a fellowship program. So first of all, see what they're looking forward from your side, right? Similarly, see what our Google Summer of Code mentors looking forward. That particular project is looking forward. There's deadline, of course. There are different skills that you need. Different projects have different requirements inside of Google Summer of Code as well. So the basic thing is to start early. This is November itself. If you start in this week, you are having a big head start because most of the people actually start by February or March, and the program is in May. So you have a head start. You actually go ahead and do different things for any program. For women, it's a very good thing out there. They have a lot of different open source programs that are targeted to women tech makers. Like women tech makers is like a community. They might have programs like Outreachy, I guess. Yeah, Outreachy is one of the very good programs. There are other programs out there for women as well. And for everyone else, there are multiple programs. Every single company is starting some kind of a contribution program. They are looking for contributors. So first, read. Same for a job. Read the job description. Read the program description. You will get to know what people don't know after reading it. If you read it, you'll see, okay, this is the deadline. This is what they need. Okay. Now, this is how I start. This is how I make the plan. And this is how I learn moving forward. Just make a plan for 2 weeks, see if it works. Try to have conversations with people who have done it or are in that particular program. Ask your questions and then move forward. And then for every program, you have to iterate again and again because you have to maximize your chances to crack it. Right. So, and in that way, it depends what program you are targeting. There are multiple programs, multiple blogs out there for every program. Read all the information you can get out of it.
That's so great. That's so great, Yashovardhan. And moving forward, let's discuss on one of the most talked about things in the Indian student community. That is, cracking a foreign job, or based out of India, cracking a job in multinationals, or uh, out of India, let's say Europe-based or UK or US-based startups. Or so, what should someone prioritize, and how should their strategy be like when they're looking for, let's say, out of India opportunities? How did you crack it, and what mistakes did you make along the way? What did you learn from it? And if you were to tell your 5-year-old self, or 5 year ago self, what things you should avoid, or what things should you double down on, what would they be?
I'll double down on communication skills. That is the
Yeah.
first thing. With remote working, you have to understand how to talk with people in different countries, or understanding their perspective about different things, being open about what people are suggesting, being open to feedback as well. So if you are working like remotely, the first thing comes into account is communication. Extremely good communication skills. You have to develop that. That's the only way forward. Second thing is being accommodating for all the cultural aspects, because everyone in the world has a different way they see things. Every culture is different. So you need to be open about how things work, and be open about, okay, this culture is like allowing these things. This is how they work. You have to be accommodating of yourself, that you are doing things that are not very different, or not in terms of different, that are not hurting anybody in any way. So you need to be very careful of that. And the third thing is, you have to be accommodating of the time zones as well, which is a very, very basic thing if you are working remotely, because nobody can work very late hours just for you. You cannot work very late hours just for everyone. So manage your time particularly. So these are the steps when you are like talking about remote jobs, which I would have given. But in terms of cracking it, again, not cracking, I don't like the word cracking particularly. It's like, in terms of interviewing or understanding that particular job, is it's like any other job out there, right? It's about pitching yourself for any job. Like, for example, you are targeting a startup, you are targeting a fan company, you are targeting like a remote startup or a remote established company in some ways, right? So for a startup, you can actually contact people like locally very easily. You can contact a lot of people, what's going on, what's being interesting, and how you can contribute. You might have a lot of conversations with people. For a multinational company, there is a standard process, especially for like the early career journey people. They are very specific about the process. The middle careers is very different altogether. Early careers is extremely specific about the process, because they get thousands of applications. And the third one is, as compared to like, if you have the process of getting selected, you know what to do. If you have conversations with people, you know what to do. Third one, it's kind of a black box initially, because it's like a job description you're applying for and you don't know what to do. So what should you do at that point? Now at that point, definitely apply, but try to reach out to the people and talk about yourself. Ask, okay, you are doing this thing, something interesting. Ask questions, because if you ask questions about what they are doing, they're tending to more easily reply to you, right? So the first thing is always difficult to crack. The second thing, the third thing, people actually see on your CV that you have already worked remotely before, and that helps. But the first time, you need to talk to people. Okay, like I'm talking to okay, so I see some kind of a job description. There are multiple sites, like we work remotely, and a lot of different remote job sites. If you see, I guess Power to Fly has great listings out there as well. So you just see, first of all, like what are the listings out there, see what is the job description. Again, read the job description. Cool. So you have read the job description, you understand what this company is doing. Now try to form questions. Okay, this company is doing that. And don't just form questions for the sake of forming questions. Actually form questions you are interested in. try to contact the people, like maybe the hiring manager. Maybe it's like a smaller international startup, try to contact maybe the CEO or something. Ask the questions. Okay, this is where what you are doing. I'm interested in knowing more about it. And maybe I can see how can I can contribute more. That might come later on down the lane, but try to do that. And it's not necessary that you'll get the job as like a full-time person instantly. You might get in as a contractor, you might get in as like a part-time person. But this is your start, right? That's
Yeah.
how I started as well. For me personally, I did work in Indian startups before when I was in my college days. But then afterwards, through mutual connections I had built up through different programs, I got to know about different startups which are
Hmm.
like out of India. I tried to work with them. I tried to contribute to them to an extent. Similarly, how you contribute to open source. See, I can
Yeah.
solve this problem for you. Can you actually like accept my PR or can I work on this? Similarly, in a job, okay, I can solve this problem for you. Can I work on contract with you? Right? It's all connected in that way. That's why I see the open source experience is really, really valuable because that actually got me into it. I had that conversation about contributing. I had that conversation about understanding the goals. I had those remote working ideas and how to actually communicate with people, all that kind of experiences, right? And that's how, when I just talk to people about, okay, this is how I want to do it,
Hmm.
then only you will get into it. The major thing to note here is the response is generally very low, right? You
Yeah.
might go into 50 or 70 or 80 companies, you might just hear from 5, 6 or 7, right? And that's fine. Don't get demotivated. Just go out there. Someone will contact you for sure, and you will get something out there.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, communication is the key because, you're living continents apart, you're living time zones apart. So you should be doubling down on communication, and you should be, kind of ready to accommodate on a few levels. Like, for instance, I'm somebody who stays in India and works for Power of Life. And, majority of my team members live in Eastern time zone. So sometimes, you have to accommodate to till late hours to kind of, coordinate with the rest of the team. So that's something anybody who wants to have a career based in India, but in foreign companies should be aware of. And the other thing that you definitely mentioned is to have a giving attitude. That you are ready to contribute, that you want to give them something, and you are there to add something to them. So when you have that, you not feel any hesitation while reaching out, because we often feel hesitation when we feel like we are asking for something. When you go with the mindset that I am going to add something there, I am going to give something to this organization, or they are going to value, they're getting a value out of me, you're very less likely to be hesitant to reach out. So those were really nice points, Yashovardhan. So moving forward, so were there any specific questions, or specific what should I say, red flags that when you were interviewing for all these companies, were there any specific instances that that kind of sealed the deal for you? That when you saw those questions or saw those things, then this is the company I want to work for. Or were there some specific things that when you heard about that, you were like, no, I'm gonna steer clear of that? So what are those? What are some red flags or green flags that you saw in your journey of interviewing with multiple companies?
Okay, this is a very difficult question to answer, actually. So if I talk about my experiences,
Mhm.
I have talked with like very low level companies in the initial stages of my career. I've talked to middle stage companies as well. And then I switched to remote working, and then I saw this whole different culture out there. It's been 2 years or more than 2 years, actually. I've been working remote. And then I started exploring different companies. Now, when I was exploring different companies, I tried to understand what is this person actually very happy about? Like, is this person actually want does this person actually want my contributions, or is this person is looking for me to actually just like not thinking out loud or not adding on anything on a mental level, or just doing what they want me to do? So this is a very
Mhm.
basic thing for me. when I actually work, I want to contribute according to what I feel is good as well, right? It's not just about just doing what I'm supposed to, not robotic work, but actually doing something that can actually help people out there. I
Being
was looking
mindful
for
about it.
being mindful about it, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I was interviewing, I definitely saw this open source thing because that actually helped me a lot. If I talk about any particular red flags, I cannot recall any specific red flag as of that. But
Hmm.
I can say, if you feel like this particular company is just, you're doing just for the money, you are doing just for the sake of doing a job, or you feel like this is like a fine point and I would be contributing it to an extent and I might leave it later on, you should avoid it. If these
Yeah.
points come to your mind, that I'm just doing it for the money, because people say remote pays more than what local companies pay, you should focus on, okay, am I actually going to learn from it or not? Because I'm saying
Hmm.
this very clearly, because if you have this mindset, what will happen is you will not grow in the long term. Okay, this year you are getting a decent salary, next year you are at the same pit stop, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The same time, if you have worked for a company where you have grown, you might earn 5x more than that. That's also possible, right? So if you're thinking just about,
Absolutely.
okay, this is, I'm doing just for the money, or this is where I'll just contribute for the sake of contributing, I'm just developing things for the sake of doing it, I don't like it, you will be very like stressed all the time when you are working, and you will be extremely like not actually learning anything new. You'll be just doing
Hmm.
it. Okay, just complete this work. I'm just supposed to complete this work. That's it. Whenever these things come in, I just stop having those conversations. I have multiple companies which I have stopped conversations. I don't want to reveal the specifics, but I felt something like that at that point, and I said no. I don't want to move forward at all.
That's so great. Yeah, that totally. I mean, what's the point of working if you're not growing? And end of the day, this professional, your professional career contributes to around, a significant chunk of your adult life. So what's the point of it if you're not gaining something out of it? Totally agree with you, Yash. And for all our audience who are here in the Zoom room or watching from our site, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it there, and we'll definitely try our best to go through them. By the way, we have a great collection of audience questions that the audience pre-submitted. So let me just go through some really interesting ones. So it's about money that we briefly touched upon in a previous answer. So as a student, when you're recently transitioning into the workforce, you're very less likely to know more about money. Money is still a foreign aspect to you. You want it, but you don't know much about it. So how did you kind of go through this situation? And when I'm talking about the situation, what I specifically infer is basically salary negotiations. How do you work around that? How do you, I mean, what are ESOPs? I mean, these are some topics. Those are still kind of a mystery land for many early job aspirants. They don't know what are ESOPs, what are SARs, and those are big terms that get thrown away here and there, and they just sit there, just gazing at all of these, like, what are these? So how did you brave your way through this maze and kind of get to a salary that kind of compensates you for the kind of skill that you have?
To be very frank, I did not negotiate salary for my first two jobs because I did
Okay.
not know about it, right? And that's totally fine if I talk to a new person as well into this job sector. They don't know. And I was never granted ESOPs or anything in my first startup as well, which I was working in. I was just working for the sake of learning at that point. I did not know anything major. I
Mhm.
wanted to go into developer relations. I was working as a developer. I wanted to go in a different direction. As I said, I did not want to do that job for a long time, and that was not a very good experience in general, if I should say. So definitely, if you're going out there, if you're getting an opportunity, saying no to an opportunity is a very difficult thing when you are in a very
Mhm.
early stage, right? And it's
Yeah.
totally fine if you don't say no. If you just do it initially, it's fine to an extent. but you need to back yourself as well. When you are negotiating, the first thing is you need to understand how much they are actually willing to pay you. Those things come in the conversations you have with people, right? So
Mhm.
don't try to like give all your cards at once, show your all cards at once. It's like trying to blend in that conversation. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm like, for example, this a very common question is, what kind of a salary expectation you have? If you just say
Mhm.
a number out there, either what will happen is it happens in different stages of an interview. If it is happening at a very early stage of an interview, they might be just looking for a way to actually reject you as well. Okay, this candidate is asking for a lot of money. That
Mhm.
might happen in startups. That I'm saying, I have experienced this particularly in a startup. And I'm not sure about big tech companies, but this happens in some companies. Okay, very early stage, they are trying to play like a way of actually you are on the borderline of not being able to pass, and they might ask you, it's
Mhm.
like, okay, if this candidate is asking for a lot, we might go ahead and reject them. If it is happening at the end stage of the interview, okay, this candidate is final, we should actually go and hire them. So this is like the mindset difference. You should understand what's coming out there, right?
Yeah.
And if you just say a number, it might be less than, it might be more than the number they are expecting. So it's according to what you are expecting, right? And your expectations might be even less than what they are expecting. So try to play the card in the way that they are telling you the number. So this
Yeah.
is a very difficult thing to do, but this is somewhat of the negotiation part a lot of people do. I've done as well. Try to talk to the people who you know are in that similar
Mhm.
career position. They might not reveal their exact salaries, nobody actually does. Some of them do, but they will tell you a way of how to get the best offer out there, right?
Yeah.
Try to make friends with the people on around that same thing before interviewing, during interviewing. Try to understand that. And that won't even just help you in this money or the salary aspect, that will help you in multiple aspects of actually understanding that job role. Try to do that. But if I talk about benefits, generally just understand it comprises of 4 or 5 factors maximum. The main in-hand salary that you get, some kind of EPF thing, like what they are contributing to the provident fund, that will be a contribution from your side and the company's side. Then ESOPs, as you mentioned, or SARs, those are stock options or like stock allocations in a different way. They're just basically stocks. You need to understand how they are
Mhm.
allocated. And then it might be a bonus aspect as well, which in most companies you might not even get 50% out of, because it depends on the target that company hits. So don't go
Yeah.
for that trap as well. You need to understand what have they actually given, what are they looking to give. And even when you are getting ESOPs or things like that, you need to talk with the recruiter. Okay, this is how much I am getting, this is how much time these are being like vested in, how much time I can hold it for, what are the company policies around holding it. There's a lot of questions that come in. The basic thing is, don't focus on that early on, focus on that at the end. But when you focus on that, actually Google it, what each and every term means, and what it,
Yeah.
just read for it for 1 hour. I'm sure you might have done it. I've done it for a long time for different companies.
Totally.
But this is the basic thing you need to do. Google every single term, what is happening over there.
Totally, and I really synergize with the thing that you said, that just hold it for as long as it's possible, because when because it's an investment in time and resources from their side as well. So if they are taking it to the last round, then you can be certain that they are willing to go the extra mile to kind of retain you. So it's better that if you kind of hold that compensation part to as long as possible, and kind of reveal in it or play in it in the later stages, so that you kind of get an upper hand, if not an upper hand, at least a playing level field, so that you're not revealing all your cards at once. Totally agree. And moving forward, we have another question, and it's basically a theme of questions that kind of revolves around freelancing and being a freelancer as a student. So let's say, how would you, or what would be your advice to someone who is a student and who aspires to, because it's a creators economy, and freelancers are making as much as, and sometimes even in many cases far more than salaried professionals are doing. So what would be your suggestion to someone who wants to dabble in the world of freelancing and go from there, and for someone who's a student?
Right. To be very honest about freelancing, you are the better person to talk about that. You have much more experience in that than I do. But if I talk about freelancing, I personally feel it's a very good way of making money and understanding and exploring a lot of companies in the first place, right? Freelancing can give you so great opportunities you can not even think about initially. But freelancing at the end is some kind of a business that you are doing, right?
Yeah.
It's not actually some kind of a job that you are doing. It's actually a business. And you need to have those skills prior to actually going out there. Like in at a job, you can actually learn skills on the job. But as a freelancer, you're expected to actually have those skills before taking the project, right? So there is definitely understanding those skills, but there's another thing of pitching those skills that you need to know,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
it's like, again, it's again like a totally different way. In a job, you might sell a lot of different things about yourself, but in a freelance, you are selling just the skills of the specific project, nothing else,
Yeah.
right? You're not selling yourself as like a person who can do multiple things, because they don't care about it. They just care about that project. So if you want to start freelance, the first thing is there are multiple platforms, and I guess Upwork is where I have done some work as well, and you might have done some stuff as well, I guess. So Upwork is a very good platform, but before that, you need to know what is going on there. If you're creating maybe WordPress stuff, that is like the easiest place to start.
Yeah.
uh, Understand how WordPress websites work, how PHP code is written, how these things are formatted. What are marketers looking if you are actually developing a WordPress job? Now, one thing I just mentioned, marketers are looking for a WordPress thing. Why not developers? Why the freelance things are for marketers for WordPress generally, to be very honest, or me, even people who have no idea about website building. I generally see that because I have explored this economy a bit, right? So
Yeah.
similarly, if you're going into data science stuff, if you're going into community stuff, understand what that company actually needs before quoting anything to them, what you'll do or how will you do that. So similarly, read through what their description is, what they actually want, read through the company. And this is very same for doing a job as well, applying for a job
Yeah.
as well. But in a job, you have to show a lot of interpersonal skills. In a specific project, you have to just show the skills to do that, right?
Yeah.
So if I talk about any common mistakes might be like not thinking about maybe your tier and what you are like applying for. Are you capable enough? If you are if you are taking up a project and you have not contributed or completed it on time, it will actually demerit as well. That is a very common mistake. Taking up a project, pitching something and not being able to do on time again, or
Yeah,
not being able to do
absolutely.
it at all. So first of all, develop those skills, pitch those skills properly. Though that is the basic thing about freelance, nothing else. It's about the skills. But I guess you might be able to answer this better. I don't know if I've answered all the different things over here or not.
No, you actually touched on quite a few really good points there, but I'd like to add on a bit that,
Mhm.
most often people, I mean, students think that, freelancing is the easy way out rather than going for a job. But let me tell you, it couldn't be farther from the truth. Because, when you're doing a job, let's say you're a marketer or you're a developer, your only responsibility is that specific domain. If you're a developer, your job is to talk about development, whether the code passes or not. If you're a marketer, you are in that domain. But if you're a freelancer, you are the company, you are the developer, you are the marketer, you are the copywriter, you are everything, you're all in one, and everything comes into your domain. So that's something that everything should keep in mind when they're diving into freelancing. And if you're a student, or if you're somebody who is getting started in platforms like Upwork or TopTal, let me tell you that these are highly saturated right now. So, expect to see some failure in the initial 5 or 6 months. And, there is no guarantee that you would succeed even after that, but don't get disheartened in, early failure. It's not like that, you go out there in the marketplace and people are there to sell you, because it's a really cutthroat competition out there. So what I would suggest that, keep your cool for some time and, be patient. And the other thing would be communication. If somebody is, I mean, all the high dollar salaries that, which kind of creates the dream for freelancing is basically from the Western countries, like be it Europe, be it America. But so when that happens, you have to kind of factor in all the things that Yashovardhan said about, communication, working in a remote role. So you have to communicate, you have to be available in, kind of their time zones. So all of those things you have to keep in mind. And be ready to communicate. Sometimes you have to, initially at least, till the time you don't have a proven portfolio, you have to kind of lowball yourselves a bit so as to get those projects. And just kind of think of it like a Uber kind of a situation. You get those stars, you get those ratings from them. So it's a client friendly domain. I mean, it's not a creator friendly domain. So if you did something really right, but the client thinks that it's not a really high quality work, then it's going to cost you in ratings, and that might really lowball your earning potential. So those are some things that somebody has to keep in mind. So
I might add a few things over here again. If you're working with a client, try to form a relationship with them, because they will give you a lot more projects. And maybe you might land a job on top of that as well, right? So it's like try to build those relationships when you get in, but before getting in, focus on the skills. When you have done it, focus on the relationship. And one more thing, if you are someone who is exploring this as a freelancer, as a business owner, you have much more tax benefits in India, to be very honest. So think about that as well when you are exploring this, how you should actually claim those tax benefits. So that's something down the lane, but I just wanted to add that because that's something I got to know very later in the stages.
Absolutely. And now we have one of my favorite questions, and I'd love to have your take on this. This is basically, when somebody is looking for their first job out of college, should they look for multinationals or startups? It's a very basic question, but a question that really plagues everyone's mind. Anybody who's graduating or who's about to graduate, or who is really early in that career ladder, everybody has that doubt. So how did you brave that question? I know that you kind of dabble through startups. So why startups and why not multinational companies? So what was your rationale behind going for one of those and not the other?
See, in my situation, I did not have the option for multinational companies. I was a mechanical graduate. I did not have very good marks. And it was a difficult route to actually know the theoretical parts of computer science before actually diving deep into what the multinationals might need. Right. So for me, that particular option was not existing. So it was not difficult for me to say, okay, I'll start with the startup. But anyway, like even though I started from startups, I landed on different companies and remote working and everything got in where I am right now. And I'd see anybody doing something similar from like a big multinational company. They might be in a similar situation than what I am, maybe in a lower situation in some senses, maybe in a higher situation. So in the career journey, it's not just about where you start. It's a long journey that you need to take into account. My journey has been for 3 years now, right? So in the 3 years, I have done something here and there and dabbled across different things. And that's how I landed up over here. Somebody who has done in a multinational company, they might have dabbled something here and there. Maybe they have quit the multinational company in between to start something on their own. People have started on their own startups and everything. So there are multiple routes somebody can take. Actually, this particular question about startup versus a multinational is a very interesting one, because I asked this to a panel when I was actually hosting GitHub Satellite, and the panel included the top people from very like companies like obviously GitHub was there, and if you know about I don't remember the basic company that owns all these things. I guess InfoEdge India. Yeah, InfoEdge India, if you might know about that. And like BlackRock. So the top companies out there, people from that, the VP level people, and I just asked them about their take. Should someone take risk in going at an early stage in a startup, or should they actually focus on going on a multinational company and learn those skills on the job? I got very mixed answers from everyone. Somebody who had that experience of a startup was advocating for a startup. Somebody who had that experience of a multinational was advocating for a multinational. And there was no one who was not inclined toward inclined towards their aspect of if that is good or that is not good. So everyone had that particular thing in their mind. Okay, I've done this works. They had that particular thing in mind, right? And this is because if you have started from a multinational aspect, you have started from a very safe zone, and you have the chance to learn a lot and explore a lot, because it's a very, very difficult product at the first place. It's an enterprise product. If you are from a startup, you might have the chance to learn a lot of different things on the job because you are dabbling around with different things. Or you might have, even in a startup, you might have the chance to do literally nothing because that product never took off and never reached to the level where you can learn something very nice. So definitely a startup is a gamble, and that gamble can give you very like take you very far in your career journey. MNC, again, if you get into a really good team, you might explore a lot of different things. If you not get in the same company, like even Google, if you get into a very good team, you will explore a lot of things. If a bad team happens to you and you cannot change the team so easily, you might not even get the things you want to learn, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's again about what opportunities you get. Understand what that opportunities has for you. Don't focus on just FANG, the multinational. Don't focus on that. Don't focus on just getting into remote jobs. Don't focus on getting into startups. Try everything at the first place. If you apply to 100 companies everywhere, you will have a list of companies to choose from, right? Be in that position to choose, take the decision, own the decision. If you have made it right, good for you. If you have not made it right, own that decision. You will make it right for next time where somebody
Yeah.
else has gone wrong. So it's as simple as
Abs-
that.
Absolutely. And thank you for your nuggets of wisdom there. And I really love the fact that, it really boils down to your personal decision because, everyone has some biases to it. If somebody has gone through the startup route, they'll be biased towards the startup route. And somebody has gone through the MNC route, they'll be biased towards the MNC route. And I totally agree that, at the end of the day, it's you and you have to see what aligns with your skill set, and you have to take that decision for you and then because you will be bearing the fruits of that decision, be positive or negative. So you have to own it and move forward. Thank you, Yashovardhan, for such an insightful discussion today. We were so honored to have you here with us at Power Fly. Thank you for this. Hope you had a really
Thanks
great
a lot,
time.
Sanmay. Thanks a lot for inviting me. And I really, there were really good questions out there. Thanks a lot. I had a ball as well.
Thank you. All right, then. See you in the next chat and learn. Adios for now. Bye.